Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing fantastic. It's so great to see you. Give me just a second. Make sure everything's up and running well. It looks like the live stream, like the actual, what you guys are seeing is way behind what I'm seeing. So give it just a sec, just so I can make sure that everything's up and running well, but I believe it is. There we go. Yes, we're good. We are good to go. Just major lag between me and the live stream, but that doesn't really matter. It's great to see everybody. How are you doing today? We've got a couple good topics that we can talk about. Yesterday, of course, Sony had a state of play. We got some, I would say, not a ton of actual news out of that state of play. It was a pretty good state of play, but there wasn't a lot of like big announcements or like brand new reveals. There were some really good trailers, I thought, but it was mostly stuff that we had already heard of and had already been announced. Maybe the biggest news piece was that we finally got a release date for Stellar Blade, which is going to be on April 26th. Other than that, of course, there was some amazing trailers. Death Stranding 2 trailer for me was the absolute highlight of the show. Thought Death Stranding 2 looked absolutely incredible. And then there was a bunch of other stuff, right? Silent Hill 2 got shown finally. We finally saw gameplay to that. There's been some mixed reactions to Silent Hill 2 gameplay. We can go into it if you guys want to. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff. New trailer for Judas and things like that. So we can talk about anything you guys want to with the state of play. Probably the biggest news topic, especially for my audience, is going to be the Microsoft earnings, right? And specifically, of course, the Microsoft Gaming / Xbox earnings that came out of that. And this earnings report to me is like a tale of two stories, right? There's some big, massive wins here for Microsoft's gaming division. And then there is, of course, one thing that very much sticks out, which is causing a bunch of debate online, and that is the state of Xbox hardware. So first, let's just give the overall umbrella look at the numbers that we got out of Microsoft, right? So this is for fiscal year 24 Q2, and very important to note, this will be the first quarter that includes Activision Blizzard. So you're going to see massive jumps this quarter. You're going to see massive jumps for this whole next fiscal year in the year-over-year comparisons. I pointed that out a while back that, you know, once like the actual acquisition had gone through and Microsoft started making forward-looking forecasts, including Activision Blizzard, I told you guys, get ready. You're going to see ridiculous jumps year over year. And this is going to be the first quarter that you see it. You're going to see it for essentially the next 4 quarters until we catch back up to, you know, this same quarter next year, because the comparison will already include Activision Blizzard. But you know, Activision Blizzard is now part of Microsoft Gaming. So all of these boosts are going to be very valuable to Microsoft. It's the whole reason they bought the company, right? So here is the data that we got out of Microsoft. Overall gaming revenue grew by 49%. Xbox content and services grew by 61%. Xbox hardware revenue grew by 3%. And gaming revenue totaled $7.1 billion. This is by far the biggest quarter in the entire history of Xbox, Microsoft's gaming, anything. They've never had, you know, metrics anywhere near this, to be perfectly honest with you. It's by far their biggest quarter ever. Makes sense. You're adding the essentially biggest Western third-party publisher in terms of revenue to your ecosystem. That's going to cause gargantuan gains. But again, you know, I had a lot of people try and downplay this and be like, well, it's only because Activision. That's true, but like they're part of Microsoft now, right? Same thing where Bungie's going to boost PlayStation numbers, or same thing where all, you know, Insomniac brought huge gains to PlayStation. Obviously different calibers, right? We're talking about Activision Blizzard, who's a whole publisher, compared to some devs, but the reality is they are now part of Microsoft. So you have to look at it as the whole umbrella. A few other things that we got out of that is going to be Satya Nadella on the earnings call. Of course, I was on the earnings call, as I always am. They broke all records for console, PC, and mobile players last quarter. Again, they're going to get that giant influx of all the people coming from Activision's Blizzard side. They have more than 200 million monthly active users now. So far, mostly all sounds like sugar and rainbows, right? They added this giant publisher to their umbrella. They're getting tons and tons of ridiculous revenue now. They're having huge, player numbers, huge everything. So what do you mean that there's one point here that's a little not so great? And that's actually what Amy Hood specifically pointed out on the earnings call. Amy Hood noted that the console performance for the quarter was weaker than expected, right? They had a weaker than expected one. And here's the scary part to me. It's not just what Amy Hood noted about last quarter, it's also their forecast for this upcoming one. It's a pretty horrible result. We're talking like Xbox One at its lowest points levels of forecast, right? We're talking, if you look at the revenue forecast they're kind of giving for their next quarter for hardware, and Amy Hood outright said they're expecting to be down year over year, we're talking about, maybe a console that's going to ship less than 1 million units in a quarter for the Xbox Series this upcoming quarter. That is just, there's no way to frame it. It's bad. There's no other words. You can't even use a different word for it than bad. It's just bad. All right, it's just bad. Their hardware position is not good. And that's causing a whole bunch of debate, right, about the future of Xbox, the future of Microsoft, if they can turn all of this around. Does hardware even matter to Microsoft anymore, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you guys are going to all have a ton of thoughts on that. So we're going to go into it, right? You guys fill that chat up with your opinions, your questions, your comments, that sort of thing. Because, yeah, it's a big debating point, right? You're seeing Microsoft get a lot of growth in a lot of other areas, big part because of these acquisitions, but you're not seeing that hardware accelerate. In fact, you're seeing the opposite. I wrote a tweet about it, and I was noting, big overall revenues for Microsoft Gaming, but on the flip side, hardware continues to be a struggle for Xbox Series. Hardware forecast next quarter is a decline year over year, and revenue forecast points to low units. Microsoft Gaming growing in other areas, but hardware performance is contracting. Very, very interesting thing that we're seeing here from Microsoft. The only other thing I'll highlight off the top before we start getting into your guys' comments and questions is going to be Palworld. We've been talking about this the last couple weeks, right? How we're seeing Palworld just do ridiculous numbers. We got a new update out of both Microsoft and out of Pocket Pair, the developers themselves. First, I will note what Pocket Pair said, and then we'll go straight into the Microsoft PR as well. First off, from Pocket Pair themselves, Palworld hit 19 million players in less than 2 weeks. 12 million players come from Steam alone. So keep in mind, that's essentially going to be the sales number. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of wiggle room in there, but not much, because, they didn't say PC, which would include Game Pass. They said Steam, and this is not a free-to-play game. You have to buy Palworld on Steam. So you're essentially looking at right around 12 million sales. That's insane. I can't even believe I'm saying this. You're looking at around 12 million sales in less than 2 weeks on Steam. And then you're looking at the Xbox PR, which came out of it, which is also very impressive for Microsoft. They've had more than 7 million players on Xbox platforms. Keep in mind, they are going to count Game Pass PC, I believe, as part of this. In fact, I think the PR even outright stated it, because they consider Game Pass on PC an Xbox platform. They do, right? It's not just about consoles for them. It's also going to be Game Pass PC players. So you're looking at more than 7 million players through that. It's the biggest third-party launch ever on Game Pass. The previous record holder was High on Life. Now Palworld is the biggest third-party game to ever launch on Game Pass. It had the most played third-party Xbox cloud gaming ever for a day one launch. So in other words, any game that's ever launched on Game Pass. I noticed that they use that wording. It says to me that probably Fortnite had a bigger total player, because if you remember, Fortnite got added to Xbox Cloud Gaming, but that was not a day one launch, right? That came much, much later than when Fortnite came out. But still impressive numbers there, and they hit nearly 3 million daily players, and at the time it was the most played game on Microsoft platforms. That means more people were playing it than Fortnite. They did not say that it was the most played Game Pass title. They outright said it was the most played game, period, on Microsoft platforms. So that means it's doing more players than Fortnite, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, etc. on Xbox platforms. So pretty insane numbers from Palworld. I noted, it was only January. Guys, we're not going to see a better selling game this year. The odds of a game outperforming Palworld this year are very, very slim. That we had actually ran a poll on this last chat, and I think it was something like 60% of you guys thought that Palworld would be the number one seller for the year. Now it's just looking listen, it'll be a huge shock. Something's going to have to perform utterly unbelievable to pass Palworld. This game has sold over 12 million units whenever you account for Xbox, because they're going to sell some on Xbox. It's not that Xbox sales will be zero. They're not going to be anywhere near Steam numbers in terms of sales, but there's going to be some people buying this on Xbox. You're going to look at more than 12 million sales in less than 2 weeks. I mean, this thing's going to go past 20 million more than likely by the end of the year. So crazy, crazy, crazy stuff out of Palworld. All right, guys, let's get into your guys' comments and questions. Let's get rocking and rolling, because there is a whole bunch of stuff worth discussing today, and I know those Xbox numbers are going to be spicy. I know there's going to be some spicy opinions, so I'm prepared for it. For anyone, if this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, the way it works, it's a stream, it's a show, 100% driven by you, your comments, your questions. You just drop them down into chat, and we talk about the latest news in the video game industry. There's going to be a few ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the regular free method. You just type a question or comment, whatever you want, pops into chat, and I get to as many of those as I possibly can per chat. If you want to guarantee that I get to your comment or question, 2 ways to do that. Of course, there is the super chat method. You type a donation, whatever you want, it pops into chat, and I get to super chats immediately as soon as they drop. The other way to guarantee that you get a comment or question highlighted in the stream is going to be by becoming a channel member. Channel memberships are $4.99 a month, and basically just gives you priority in the chat. I guarantee every single channel member that they'll get at least one comment or question highlighted, because unfortunately, I very, very, very rarely have the opportunity to hit all free questions, because you guys ask so many good things. Okay, guys, let's get rocking and rolling. I think there's already a couple super chats in here, so let's start off with those. Plastic Hearts Podcast dropping a 5 super chat. Great to see you, Plastic Hearts Podcast. Thank you so much, buddy. Benji Boy, Silent Hill 2. Should we be worried? Not even a launch year was shown. Thoughts on action-heavy combat shown. Also inject Death Stranding 2 into my veins. Yeah, so let's run a poll right off the bat. You guys know I like the polls. We're going to run probably 3, 4, 5 polls today. I love the polls because I want to know what you guys think too, right? This chat's not just about my opinion. It's about your guys' opinion too. Because I know this has gotten very mixed reception. What did you think of Silent Hill 2's gameplay reveal? Because like I said, I know this was met very mixed. So I'm curious what you guys think. We'll say loved it. We'll say liked it overall. So, listen, there's a difference between loved it, you loved it, you thought it was just absolutely amazing, and liked it, right? There's definitely a difference between love and like. Like is just like, yeah, I liked it. We'll say meh, so you just don't really care either way. Or we'll say didn't like it. Okay, so that's your guys' options. What did you think of Silent Hill 2's gameplay reveal? You loved it. You liked it overall, you know, maybe some problems, but you liked it. You were meh, you don't really care either way, or you straight up didn't like it. Okay. My opinion on the Silent Hill 2 reveal. I will say that I thought that the atmosphere looked pretty okay. I thought the visuals definitely looked like a major downgrade from the last time they showed it, which was claimed to be in-game. It looked to me, at least, like a massive downgrade. And I'm a little worried about that combat. The combat looked a little janky. So I don't want to be super negative here. I'm not going to go as far as like the straight up didn't like it or meh category. For me, it was just liked it. I definitely did not love it. There was things here that I definitely had issues with. But I still, want to give it a chance. I'm in the liked it caliber. And again, it's like barely, right? It's just like, I'm not like on the high end of liked where I'm going to fall like very close to loved it. I'm like right above meh, right in the liked it. I'm still interested, but we'll see. We'll see. I thought that there was definitely some stuff in that Silent Hill 2 trailer that did not look fantastic, if I just have to be honest with you. Should we be worried about it in terms of launching this year? I don't think so, because I believe they've reconfirmed multiple times it is going to be 2024. I thought for sure we would have gotten a release date, to be honest with you. I was very surprised we didn't get one. I thought this show we would definitely get release dates for Stellar Blade and Silent Hill 2 once it leaked that Silent Hill 2 was going to be here. Those were the two I felt very sure. I'm like, okay, we'll finally get dates on those two. And we did on Stellar Blade, but yeah, no Silent Hill 2 date. This means it's definitely further off still than I thought. If this game was coming in the next few months, they would have dated it, right? So it's got to be second half of the year at best. And I'll be honest with you, it looks like it needs it. You know, it's a bummer it's not very close, but to be honest, if this game is still another 6-7 months away, I'm okay with that, because it looks like it still needs some work. And I agree with you on inject Death Stranding 2 into my veins. Game looked absolutely amazing. Absolutely. That was one of my favorite trailers I've ever seen. Which isn't shocking. If there's anyone that knows how to cut a trailer, it's Kojima. Benji here with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. Hi, Benji. Why Sony and Kojima decided to reveal the new spy game franchise so early? That game is likely a PlayStation 6 title, right? Yeah, more than likely. Considering Kojima is doing Death Stranding 2 right now, then he's doing OD for Xbox. And I know that OD, like in terms of total scope, isn't supposed to be something as big as Death Stranding 2. Kojima himself has said that. Doesn't mean it's a tiny game, but it's not going to be necessarily this big, giant, grand, huge open world game like Death Stranding 2 is going to be. It's going to be something a little more condensed than that. So, you know, maybe he can make OD faster than he'd be able to make a giant, you know, open world game. But either way, we know he's got 2 projects, you know, that still haven't even released yet, right? Death Stranding 2 is going to be next year, because that was confirmed for 2025. OD, you got to think after that by quite a bit, right? Maybe best case scenario for OD is 2026. You know, that puts you at that point, you know, I would be very surprised if we see the new Spy franchise. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I'll be honest with you, I'll be surprised if we see that on PlayStation 5. At best, it's probably a cross-gen game. Why they announced it so early? Kojima's a big get, right? It's a big marketing point. You know, Microsoft also announced OD very early. They didn't call it OD, but back when Microsoft announced that they were working with Kojima on a game, you know, that was what? That wasn't 2023's summer showcase. That was 2022, right? Wasn't that a 2022 showcase, I believe, for Xbox they announced that? And like I said, that game is maybe 2026. You know, so quite early, right? That game was also announced, you know, 4+ years in advance. It's because Kojima's a big get. You know, anytime that someone's able to make a deal with Kojima, they want to brag about it. So that's really the only reason, I think. I don't think it's one of these things that they're necessarily announcing it to try and sell a bunch of PlayStation 5s. It's more to just be like, look, guys, you know, we got Death Stranding 2, and we've also locked up the next Kojima project, right? It's more of just kind of like a bragging thing, almost. So, but yeah, it's very, again, that's more than likely a PlayStation 6 title. Best case scenario is it would be cross-gen, but even that we'll have to see. It's got to be quite a ways off, considering we have Death Stranding 2 and OD still to go before we even get there. So yeah, I would think so, Benji. I agree. It's still got to be quite a ways off. Think we had another super chat drop. We did. We have a 10 from Timmer. What's up, Timmer? Thank you so much for that 10 super chat. Whoops. Clicking all sorts of stuff. Benji, thoughts on the Call of Duty franchise making more than $31 billion in revenue? Marvel Cinematic Universe, for example, did the same, just that at the box office, plus keep being awesome. I haven't seen the exact figure on this. I'm going to just trust you're right on this, Timmer, because more than often than not, you are correct. Not too shocking. I mean, Call of Duty is an absolute freaking juggernaut, an absolute monster. 31, I'll be honest, I kind of could have seen that being even higher, but I mean, it's still an insane, ridiculous number, right? These games are pumping out billions and billions and billions of dollars. You know, there was a while there where you kept thinking, is the Call of Duty franchise in danger? Is the Call of Duty franchise going to die? And guys, it just has its ups and downs, but there's no sign that that franchise is ever going to go away. I remember all of the hand-wringing during Call of Duty Ghosts. Oh, the franchise is over. I remember all of the hand-wringing over Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. They've killed the franchise. This isn't what the community wants. I mean, this happens all the time, right? The franchise has its ups and downs. Vanguard super underperformed. But for every Vanguard, you have a Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2 that just do absolutely insane sales. So I wouldn't anticipate Call of Duty going anywhere anytime soon. It's an absolute juggernaut, one of, if not the biggest franchise in gaming. Again, it'll have its peaks and valleys, but my thoughts on it are just that it's an absolute juggernaut, right? That there's just really no other way to phrase it. And that's not going to stop anytime soon. Not anytime soon. All right. And thank you for that super chat. That's very generous, Timmer, and you keep being awesome as well. I saw that you want to be on some podcasts this year. I saw you write that on Twitter. So good luck, man, booking some podcast appearances. Okay, let's get to some channel members because super chats are cleared. Johnny G22, what is up, Johnny G? Hope all is well, Benji. Can't watch the stream live, but we'll watch later. Anyways, how about that Death Stranding trailer and Alan Wake is in the game? Yeah, that's funny because I thought it as soon as I saw that puppet, like literally as soon as I saw that puppet, I'm like, dude, this looks like Alan Wake. And there's even like almost a Mr. Scratch thing there. I honestly can't help but wonder if Kojima was a little influenced by that. We know that him and Sam are somewhat buddies. I don't think so. It is a different actor, right? It's totally different actor than Alan. It's not clearly supposed to be Alan. But it is like I saw a lot of people tweeting that after I thought it like, and I'm sure there's people that were sending out tweets even before me about it, but I thought it while I was watching the trailer. And now I'm seeing a bunch of people be like, even on the replies to my tweet about it, I had people commenting and like sending me like showing screenshots of like people sending them DMs being like, dude, is that Alan Wake? Like it does. It totally looks like Alan Wake. So pretty funny that the puppet looks very similar to Alan. And yeah, trailer looks incredible. And Johnny G, all good. You can't watch live, man. Hamishly Ford, channel member, hello. Hope you're doing great, brother. I'm doing really good, Hamish. Things are looking up in Benji's world this year. So far, at least, right? Looks like it's going to be a much better year than last year, thank God. Hope you're good, Hamish. All right, is that it? J-Cat, what's up? J-Cat's in the chat. Great to see you, J-Cat. Thanks for helping mod. And I think that's it for channel members for now. We'll get, we have J-Cat saying something, and we got a super chat. First, J-Cat, I think they announced the Kojima game early because it would leak otherwise. Also a great point. J-Cat. They're making a movie alongside it, and casting, etc. would probably leak. Fantastic points, J-Cat. Those are all great points, yes. Very good points as well. Very. I didn't even really think about the Hollywood component for that because we talk about it all the time. Hollywood is just like so much more open compared to the video game industry. And it's funny because I watch some like entertainment people that cover like movies and stuff, and they're always like, oh, you know, there's all sorts of stuff like financially behind the scenes that you guys don't know about and things like that that I wish were more open. And I always just think you guys that don't cover gaming have no idea. Hollywood is like the promised land of openness in regards to this stuff compared to video games. Video games is like we must hide every single physical possible metric of everything that we can. So yeah, that's a good point. Odds are, yeah, with movies, probably a lot of stuff would have leaked if that wouldn't have been announced. So great call. Great call, J-Cat. It's also another great reason. Straight Shot with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Straight Shot. What do you think first month sales are for Tekken? An actual number, I don't know, but it looks like it's doing very well. Now, I know in Japan it's not doing that great, but I mean, that's not that surprising. But if you look at what it's doing on Steam and what it's doing on PlayStation, it looks like it's doing very well. So in regards to Steam, it had a higher peak player count than Mortal Kombat 1 did. By quite a bit, right? Let's take a look here. Tekken 8's all-time peak on Steam is nearly 50. It's essentially 50,000, 49,977. And then the all-time peak on Steam for Mortal Kombat 1 was 38,000. So you're talking more than 10,000 higher concurrent peak for Tekken on Steam than Mortal Kombat did. So looking great there. It was by far the biggest Tekken performance on Steam. And also on PlayStation, I'm always looking at, of course, all of the charts that I can. And on PlayStation, one thing I always, of course, pay attention to is the top 10 games in your country list. Of course, I'm in the US, so I can't see how it's doing in other countries. But in the US, Tekken 8 has been very high on the PlayStation top 10 games in the US. In fact, I think it's been like top 5. So the signs to me are that Tekken's doing very, very well. Outside Japan, Japan was pretty weak, but I think most people expected it to be pretty weak in Japan. It seems like Japan is not as fully behind fighting games as the West is anymore. You still see some exceptions, right? Smash Brothers is super huge there, but like Street Fighter 6 wasn't crazy massive in Japan. I mean, actually, let me somewhat correct that. Street Fighter 6 has done pretty decent, especially because the esports scene in Japan has done very well there for Street Fighter. But I would just say, in general, compared to the peaks, right? Like, if you look at where Tekken used to perform in Japan, it used to be, like, way beyond what it's doing now. And even the same can be said for Street Fighter. If you go, like, super far back to some of the, old school Street Fighter games and things like that, I would say fighting games have definitely overall, again with some exceptions, but overall have declined more in Japan than what we're seeing in the West. But at least from the stuff I can see, Tekken 8 looks to be doing very well. Yeah, very well. But we'll have to see. We haven't gotten an actual number out of them yet, so we'll see. But I would say outside of Japan, it looks like Tekken's doing really good. We have a channel question member from Benji, because he has not had a channel member question yet. Benji, there are some rumors regarding a new handheld from Sony with AMD. Are those rumors credible? Well, I don't consider myself super hardcore insider guy. I will tell you I've heard nothing about that, but that doesn't really mean anything because I say it all the time. I don't go looking for leaks or rumors or anything like that. Stuff gets passed on my plate sometimes, but I'm not the guy out there trying to find this stuff. I have not heard anything about it. I will say I'm pretty surprised. One thing that didn't surprise me that ties into this is Jez essentially confirmed on Twitter something I was talking about a few chats ago, right? We ran a poll, I think, about this, and I said, will Microsoft ever launch a handheld, dedicated handheld hardware? And I think the winner of the poll was no, but a decent chunk of you still voted yes. Well, Jez confirmed they are looking into it. Jez replied to somebody. Can't remember who he replied to. Might have been the dude from Insider Gaming. Can't quite remember. Tom Henderson, I think. Think that's who he was replying to. Anyways, Tom was retweeting about it, and he was saying how he had not heard about a PlayStation Portable console, and he said, but it wouldn't surprise me with the success of portable PCs, and he also said, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft's looking into it, and then Jez replied, they are, so that does not surprise me at all. I was talking a few chats ago, like, if anyone I could see entering the handheld market again, it would be Microsoft. So we'll see. Do I believe the Sony ones? Listen, would I want it to be true? Yes. But Sony has such a horrible track record of supporting their own hardware outside of their dedicated home console that, I mean, look at the support they gave the Vita. It was atrocious. PSP, it was somewhat better than Vita, but it's still, I wouldn't classify it as amazing first-party support on the PSP. Definitely way better than Vita. On Vita, it was just outright atrocious, their first-party support for it. And then look at PlayStation VR 2. Look at PlayStation VR 1. Sony does a pretty darn good job of supporting their mainline platforms with first-party games, but they're always so bad about supporting anything that's not that. That would be my worry with it. I'd love to see it happen. I always thought the Vita and PSP were very cool platforms, but I don't know. It's just somewhat hard for me to believe, but we'll see. We will see. The only reason I think it makes more sense than Microsoft's probably looking into it is because Game Pass, and all of their games launch day one on PC anyway. So it would essentially be like a ROG Ally. It'd be basically Microsoft's version of ROG Ally. That's why I said a while ago, like, if I could see someone re-entering that market or entering it for the first time, it would be Microsoft, because they would probably just make a Microsoft version of whatever ROG Ally and Steam Deck are, because their games are already day one on PC, and you can play them through Game Pass. So we'll see. Maybe PlayStation's going to do something like that, but we'll see. We had a 5 super chat come in from Maker of Chaos. Thank you so much, Maker of Chaos, and thanks for a great turnout today, guys. We already have really good viewership for my channel here. Hey, do you think the success of Palworld will affect Xbox sales? Well, we saw a slight boost in Japan, still very small numbers, but there was a boost in Japan. Yeah, it went from like 1,000 units to 3,000 units. Again, it's Japan, so small numbers. But there was a boost, right? A boost over small numbers. Personally, I think Xbox needs some more big hitters. Keep up the great work, man. So here's something I can say as a retail employee, because I work in retail. I have had more people asking me about Palworld than any game that I can recall anytime recently. Just regular, casual, because I work at a big box retailer, so the people that I'm dealing with are not going to be your hardcore people that are like on forums and Twitter all day talking about video games. The gamers that I interact with are going to be your much more everyday, kind of casual, general gamer. And I have had a ton of them come up to me and ask about Palworld. I've had a whole bunch be like, what platforms is Palworld on? Is it just Xbox? Is it PC? Can I get this on PlayStation? Can I get it on Nintendo? What do you know about it? Is it really like Pokemon? I've gotten tons of it. So I will say the Palworld buzz has fully broken through into the mainstream gamer. Will that result in a big uptick in hardware sales? I could see them getting maybe some boost off of it, but is it one of these situations where I'm expecting suddenly Xbox hardware sales to massively accelerate off of it? I'm going to go no, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have some sort of boost from it, because it has penetrated fully into the mainstream gaming market conversation. But again, I don't know that you're going to see it just all of a sudden, drive Xbox to like #1 in January NPD, well, Circana. I wouldn't expect that, right? But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. But it has definitely gotten through to that mainstream market. They are aware of Palworld, 100%. Because to be honest with you, a lot of these hardcore games we talk about online all the time don't penetrate into the mainstream market in terms of conversation. Okay. Let's run another poll, and then I'm going to start getting into your guys' free comments and questions. So I asked you guys, what did you think of Silent Hill 2's gameplay reveal? Wow, the leader by a huge margin. And to be honest with you, I'm not too shocked by this because of how the reception was on Twitter and stuff. 56% of you thought it was meh. Wow, that's not good. I'm just being honest. That's not good. That's not good for Bloober. 56% of you said meh. The second, 17% straight up didn't like it. That is scary results. Small, keep in mind, small portion size here on this vote, but still not great. Not great. The two leaders are meh and didn't like it. Not great for Bloober. 16% of you liked it overall. 11% of you loved it. Not good. Not good. So we'll see. Hopefully the next showing looks a lot better because you guys are not impressed. And that was definitely the vibe I got off of reading Twitter too. Okay. Next poll going in the chat. And I'm going to run this one because we ran this one in January, and I think it's just going to become a monthly thing. I'm going to say what will be the best-selling new game in February. We ran this poll in January, and you guys voted for Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. That is what won the poll last chat. Now, we haven't gotten any big sales numbers. Well, we were all wrong, right? None of us saw Palworld coming, by the way, because that poll was ran at the very beginning of January. So actually, we're all wrong because Palworld I didn't even put as an option. That is how out of nowhere Palworld's success was. It wasn't even an option on my 4 options on the poll. So, that's not any, hit on you guys for voting Infinite Wealth because I didn't even put it as a poll option. I didn't even think that game was going to do nothing like that. So let's see. We have a lot of releases in February, but let's just focus on the big ones. We'll say Persona 3 Reloaded. Right, that should be one of the biggest. We're going to say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. What's another really big one? We'll say Suicide Squad, obviously. You got to put it in there. Kill the Justice League. I put as much as will fit. League is going to be spelled wrong, but that's all that'll fit. And fourth option, let me think. Persona, Final Fantasy, Suicide Squad. Listen, it's going to be one of those 3, right? I can't see anything else. There's other games that might sell well, but it's going to be one of those 3, I would think. What do you guys think? What should I add? You guys want me to add Helldivers? Dave's saying Helldivers. I'll just throw it in there in case one of y'all are wild enough to think that Helldivers 2 will outsell all these other games. I'll just throw it in there because Dave recommended it. Straight shot, Stellar Blade's not in February. Stellar Blade's in April. So, all right. I just realized I put a gap in Helldivers. All right, there you guys go. Let me know what you think. I'll give you my opinion, you know, once we get there. I'll let you guys vote it up a little bit before I give my take. All right, let's get to the free comments and questions. Where we at? Cameron Swear, what up, Benji? Any predictions for quarterly earnings for Nintendo and or PlayStation? You know, it's going to sound weird, but I don't have any, like, super strong takes in terms of predictions for these two because, I mean, the quarter that's being reported, there just wasn't that much, like, massively noteworthy from either of them. I mean, obviously, you're going to see stuff like Tears of the Kingdom still have great legs. You know, you're going to see Spider-Man 2 have great legs. Who knows if we actually get a sales number update or not from Sony. They're kind of hit or miss if they give us game sales updates. Nintendo will get a bunch, so that's why I mentioned, you know, you will see Tears of the Kingdom obviously very high. Spider-Man, there's a chance we get some numbers out of that, but we'll see. To me, the only real thing I'm looking at, Cameron, at this point is what Sony shipped, because I want to see how close or not they can get to their, you know, fiscal year forecast, right? This has been a hot topic conversation for a while, is if they're going to be able to hit their all-time record forecast that they're predicting for hardware. I'm on the side of they're probably not, but I really want to see exactly what they shipped that quarter so we have an idea of how much they still have to go. So, again, it sounds a little weird, but I don't have a super strong take here, just because there wasn't, like, crazy big launches necessarily that quarter. I would expect Switch to be marginally down, not massively, but down a bit year over year. PlayStation 5 hardware will be up year over year. How much so? Who knows? We need to see exactly what. And yeah, again, I know it sounds a little weird, but it wasn't exactly the most amazing. Like, wow, we got a bunch of giant launches and stuff. Not really. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's definitely some stuff. I'm not saying there's nothing, but the biggest question to me is PlayStation 5 shipments. That is the number one thing I want to see. Steve Cooper, hello. Would everyone in chat rate the state of play out of 10? Personally, I would give it a 7 out of 10. There's been better ones, but all there have been many, many worse. There's definitely been a lot of worse ones. Leading into it with the leaked list that was put out, which ended up being pretty much right, I thought on paper it looked like it could have been the best state of play ever. Now, if you notice, I'm saying state of play, not showcase. I didn't think on paper it could be the best showcase ever, but there's been a lot of what I think are just outright bad state of plays. And there's definitely been some good ones too. And I thought, oh, there's on paper, like, let's say Silent Hill 2 would have looked absolutely amazing and we got a release date for it. I thought Stellar Blade looked great. I thought Death Stranding 2 looked great. You know, if Silent Hill 2 Remake would have looked incredible and we got a date on it, if Judas would have really blown us all away and we got a date for, like, this year for it, and, like, a few other things would have come together, I thought it could have been the best. Now I'm going to say no. I think there was one that had, like, both Final Fantasy 16 and, like, some Capcom games, right? Wasn't there one that had, like, a Dragon's Dogma? Wasn't Dragon's Dogma 2 announced at a State of Play or something? I can't remember. I remember there was one State of Play that I know had Square Enix and Capcom and stuff in it that, to me, was the best they've done. I wouldn't put this as number one, but it was good. I would give it, like, 8, something like that. 8, 8.5, right around there. I think a lot of your rating will depend on what you think of Death Stranding 2, because that to me was so by far the best thing that was shown. Let's say you're not a fan of how that looked, your rating will probably be way lower. But I thought Death Stranding 2 looked incredible. So, you know, that really carried it for me. Stellar Blade, I think, also looks awesome. So like 8, 8.5, somewhere around there. We'll ask you guys. I'll run a poll. Once this current poll gets up over 50 votes, then I will run a poll and ask you guys what you think. Dave gave it an 8.5. I'm basically the same boat as you, Dave. Anthony Johnson gave it a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for me. I saw footage for 6 different games that I want to buy day one. Seeing more announcements and release dates would have been cool, but the state of play felt catered towards me. I don't think there's anything wrong with giving it a 9. Like I said, it really depends on how the specific games appeal to you. Savage Raccoon, I'm just glad there was little to no live service game shown. Yeah, I was shocked Concord wasn't there. Right? What is going on with Concord, guys? Is that game really launching this year? I don't know. We've still seen quite literally nothing but a logo and like a CG cheeseburger. So that was weird to me. There was no Concord. All right, here we're getting into our first Xbox question. I'm surprised it's this deep into the chat considering how contentious this was online. But we're going to start getting into this Xbox discussion, it looks like. I thought we'd get here like instantly. Duquesta, despite record earnings, partly due to ABK deal, do you think there will be more layoffs at Xbox this year? Okay, let's start getting into these Microsoft earnings. Do I think there will be more layoffs at Xbox despite record earnings? Not really. So here's the thing. These Activision Blizzard layoffs are horrible. They should have, in my opinion, never happened, especially with a company making as much money as Microsoft. I will tell you, let's go strictly calloused, cold businessman. After looking at the Xbox financials, do I see why they did it? Yes, actually. Now, keep in mind what I'm saying here. I am not saying they should have done this. I am not saying it's good that they did this. I'm saying strictly the people that made this decision, how they made it. You know, cold, calloused heart on, I'm here to generate money for the investors, right? That hat. The reality is there's some things that were talked about on that earnings call, partially how much more they're spending now because of how many people that they just took on, like the giant gains in spend that Microsoft now has because of ABK. I will tell you what happened is they looked at that and they said, we need to shave off X% of this. That's what happened, right? They looked at that and they said, we just took on, I can't remember the exact number, but it was a giant, we're talking high double digit additions to like payroll and stuff like that for the whole company. And what happened is Satya, Phil, Amy, right? And I'm not saying that Phil loved this idea, but I'm saying the business makers, probably very much so Satya and Amy Hood, said we need to shave off X%. X%'s got to go, right? Because some of it was redundancies. Last chat when we were talking about the layoffs, we were talking about it before. Parts of that chat might have not necessarily aged super great. I don't know. I haven't gone back to watch it, but parts of it probably didn't necessarily age great because we were doing that chat essentially as like the news was hitting and we hadn't seen how much the dev teams had been impacted yet, right? We had talked last chat about how clearly it wasn't just redundancies, right? I was talking about how some of it's going to be redundancies, which is true. Some of it's going to be. But I was also saying clearly it's not just that because they fired the entire Blizzard survival team. If you're going to do that, it ain't just redundancies. Well, it came out after that, like everyone at Activision Blizzard got hit. Call of Duty teams had people let go. Overwatch teams had people let go. Essentially every team. Essentially every single team within Blizzard and Activision had layoffs, including juggernaut franchises like Call of Duty. Toys for Bob lost a lot of people, we found out. Treyarch lost people all over the place, right? So that to me is just an X amount shaved. They looked at a payroll number, they looked at an expenses number, and they said, we got to cut X%. So find out where to lose it. And that's what happened. So will that happen again? I actually don't really think so, to be honest with you, this year. I kind of feel like they just did the thing. So I'd be surprised. Here's what I'll say. Is there a slim chance you could see, and here's why I'm saying like specifically it's not necessarily because of how Microsoft Gaming as a whole is doing. Most Xbox studios were not really hit at all. There was a few I heard at Bethesda, maybe like a couple, but very, very small. And most of the other teams that are established within Microsoft, the Obsidians, the 343s, the Turn 10s, the Playgrounds, the Ninja Theories, on and on and on. Essentially, none of these teams were impacted. It was very much focused on Activision Blizzard, which again goes into we just took on X amount of expenses. We must shave off X percentage. So if it was like part of a broader thing, like they were just panicked about Microsoft Gaming's performance, I think you would have seen more layoffs at their already established studios. But there was essentially none, and the ones that did, it was very minor from what I understand. So I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if you see another round of huge layoffs at, Xbox, Microsoft Gaming, etc. I'll be surprised. Now, in the future, could there be more? Sure, like next year or something. I don't think you'll see a giant chunk, though, more this year. Okay, we're going to end this poll and we're going to run another one. I asked you, what will be the best-selling new game in February? By far the leader, 77%. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Coming in at second with 15% is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. 4% tie at the end for Persona 3 Reloaded and Helldivers 2. Here's what I'll say. I'm going to lean kind of Rebirth. I'd be much more confident in this if it was earlier in the month. The one wrinkle here where Suicide Squad has actually a chance of outselling Rebirth for the month. Keep in mind, we're not talking lifetime because my question is what's going to be the best-selling game this month of the new launches. Suicide Squad has an enormous lead-up time over Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy essentially launches at the end of the month. Right? It's the 29th. And there's what? It's a leap year, right? So we have 29 days. It launches the last day of the month. So essentially, Final Fantasy has to sell more in one day than Suicide Squad has to sell the entire month, because Suicide Squad launches right at the beginning of the month. So lifetime, I'm absolutely with you guys. Rebirth will outsell Suicide Squad lifetime. I feel very confident in that because the quality of Suicide Squad. Monthly charts, though, I don't know. Suicide Squad might be able to do it just because it has so many more weeks. But I don't know. We'll see. Lifetime, though, there's no doubt. Rebirth will outsell Justice League, in my opinion. I expect Justice League to have, like, 0 legs. Like, 0. Okay. Next poll. How would you rate the state of play? Because that person asked, I can't remember who asked, but someone wanted you guys to rate it. So, you ask, and I shall deliver. How would you rate the state of play? We'll say, I only have 4 options, guys, so I got to do ranges. We'll say a 9, well, no, we'll do A, B, C, D. So, that'll be easier. I can't do, listen, the point scoring system, it was just, I believe, what you asked, 1 through 10. I only have 4 options. So we're going A, B, C, D. Okay? We'll say D or lower. You could give it an F. So A, B, C, D or lower. There you go. Rate that thing. I would go on this poll, B, I think. On this poll, I'd go B. Because on a point score, I think I said it was 8, which is like an 80. Like I said, it was 8 to 8.5, which is like an 80 to 85. So in the 100-point system, that'd be like a B-ish range. So yeah, that's where I would go. B. Homishley Ford, channel member. Saying, Baldur's Gate 3 is crazy. I am doing my 4th playthrough and the game still offers new stuff. LMAO. If you ever want to play a different game, go for an evil way through. I actually had to bounce off Baldur's Gate 3. I rarely quit games, guys. I rarely quit games I love. In fact, I never quit games I love. I had to stop playing Baldur's Gate 3, even though I was on Act 3. Listen, I adore Baldur's Gate 3. We talked about this last chat. It got too long for me, and I'm going to finish it. So when I say I bounced off Baldur's Gate 3, this isn't me abandoning it completely, but like I played that game starting in December, and I essentially played it the entire month of January. I was like only no-lifing that game only for like more than a month. I was at like 135 hours, and I was just like, bruh, I gotta play something else. Like, I'm sorry, this game's amazing, but like, rarely in my life do I wish for a game to be shorter. That game did not need to be that long for me. Still amazing. Still one of the best RPGs ever made. There's going to be people with the exact opposite opinion that think it should be 400 hours long. But if you're, I was going through trying to like 100% everything. Like I was meticulous in every area. I've heard if you play like that, the game can get like close to 200 hours. I was at like 135. And I was just like, bro, I got to go. I'll come back to you whenever it's a slow time of year, but like all these games are coming out and I've been playing you for like a month straight. I got to go play some other stuff, man. So amazing game, but dude, listen, I had to take a break. It's so freaking long. But as I said last week, the quality on everything's amazing. So it's not even like filled with filler. Every single piece of that game is just high quality. But holy hell, bro. It's so long. But yeah, it's amazing, Hamish. I mean, literally, if I was going to review that game, I would have given it like a 10 out of 10. This is with me complaining about like the length. I couldn't knock it for its length because it's all quality, right? It's not like I mentioned Assassin's Creed Valhalla last week. That was a game that to me clearly had filler content. Like that, like Valhalla, I actually would dock for its length because I think some of that content is purely there to add hours to the game. Baldur's Gate 3, nothing in that game to me felt like Larian was just like, we need to make this game longer. How do we pad it out? It was just like, here's another amazing quest idea, and here's another amazing character we can put in. Like, it was all quality. So if I was like a professional reviewer, I would not knock it for its length at all, because all of that content's quality. But as a personal level, it got to be too much. I just had to take a break. But I will go back to it. I will absolutely finish it. All right, where we at? Uncensored Maverick. Hello, Benji. Do you think the next State of Play will be just as long? Well, the next one's Final Fantasy specific, and I don't think they gave us a length, but it's not going to be 40 minutes. That'd be pretty crazy for Final Fantasy. I suspect listen, they might have actually given us a time length on the Final Fantasy one. I don't remember. Maybe you guys know. I'm going to guess the Final Fantasy one's like 20-something minutes. I think they've done that in the past for like individual game State of Plays. So that would be my guess. Like it'll probably be like around 20 minutes, give or take a bit. If you mean like their next overall one, there's rumors floating around that they're going to have one in May. I saw that getting spread around, that apparently May is not a State of Play, it's a full-on showcase. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what some people are claiming. If there's an actual showcase in May, I would expect for it to be at least as long, if not longer. Samuel Tobert, what's up, Samuel? Great friend of mine. Great to see you, Samuel. Check out all his work all over the place. He does stuff for Windows Central, and he's active on Twitter and stuff. Dude's the man. Good friend of mine. Excellent journalist. Samuel's saying, yo, Benji, that was a good State of Play. Yeah, I agree. It was good. Death Stranding 2 looks nuts. I'm in. 2025 is super rough, though. How do you see the rest of PlayStation's years going for first party / publishing? Yeah, this is the conversation we've been having for a while, right? Sony, for as much success as they are having, because there's just no way to go around it, they're having massive success with the PlayStation 5. For all the success they're having, and they still have some big, huge third-party exclusives, right? Stellar Blade for prime example. Stellar Blade and Helldivers 2 are both those weird, like, second-party type games. They're both published by PlayStation. PlayStation's publishing Stellar Blade. They're publishing Helldivers 2, but they don't own either one of those studios. So those are in those weird, like, second-party areas. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just fully third-party. So Rise of the Ronin's fully third-party. Well, no. No, Sony's publishing Rise of the Ronin. So that would be actually another second-party game. So Sony's not exactly struggling at all for exclusives. Their first party, though, is just such a no-show currently. I can't remember a single time in the history of the PlayStation brand that first party has been so absent. It doesn't mean they've been that way for this whole generation. You know, we've had some big games. We had God of War Ragnarok. We've had Spider-Man 2. We've had Horizon Forbidden West. Like, there's been some big ones, but like when you look at 2023 as a whole, and when you look at what 2024 is also looking like, their first party is just like so absent this generation. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. We talk about it all the time. You guys already know what I'm going to say. You guys already know. What are the words that are about to come out of my mouth? You guys know. You're sitting at home. You know the words I'm about to say. Video games take too long to make. So, yeah. How's the rest of the year going to look for first party? I would suspect not great, right? Not great. I would think if they had a big, let's say a big flagship first party game that we did not know about that was going to come out this year, the odds are very high we would know about it by now, right? We're already in February. So the odds of Sony, who is a company known for long lead up times from announcement to release, the odds of them slipping in a Ghost of Tsushima 2 at the end of the year look slim to none. I'm not going to say it's impossible. You never know. Sony could surprise us. But if we're talking strictly first party, right? That's specifically what we're talking about here. If we're talking about big first party games, Concord and that's it, right? For this year. And who knows if Concord will be any level of success. So it is weird. I will say 2024 as of now looks like what could be one of the all-time worst years for PlayStation from first party. Pay very attention to what I'm saying. I'm not saying exclusives. From their first party studios, the Naughty Dogs, the Insomniacs, the Bends, the Sucker Punch, et cetera, et cetera. We could be looking at potentially one of the all-time worst years from PlayStation first party output. It's definitely possible. We'll have to see. Savage Raccoon. There's so many analysts predicting much more layoffs coming this year. Oh, there's a lot more layoffs coming. If we're talking like across the industry, there's so many more. Microsoft game division specifically, I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I'm not expecting a lot more out of that. But if you're saying video game industry layoffs in general, oh yeah. I hate to say it, but there's so many more coming. Dave Langer, the biggest news is the Kojima spy game that is not Metal Gear. It's pretty big. Vex, Kojima working on Death Stranding 2 and a Metal Gear Solid successor makes me think the Xbox Cloud game is just a small scope project that's more experimental than a AAA. I don't know if I'm going to go as small as, or as far as small scope. I would say it's definitely not the size of Death Stranding 2. Kojima himself has outright stated this. But it very well could still be AAA. We'll have to see. We don't know enough about OD. We just strictly don't know enough about how OD is going to be. So I don't know. I'm not going to go as far. You're seeing some people push that like, oh, it's this tiny project. Like it's some small little tiny. And I'm not saying you're saying that, Vex, but I am seeing some people go around and say that. Like, oh, this is practically an indie level game coming from Kojima. There is nothing to say that at all. The only things he's really said is that it is a little bit smaller scale. It is going to be experimental and things like that. But that doesn't mean it's tiny. I mean, it could still be a pretty big game. We just need to see. I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see. We barely know anything about OD. So let's see. But I would agree it's probably going to be smaller in overall scope than Death Stranding 2 and probably the, spy game. Or whatever it is. But we'll see. Michael Yu, outside of MLB The Show, do you think Sony will release an internal first-party game this year? Yeah, here we go, right? Right back to that conversation. We didn't see Concord at State of Play. If they have a showcase in May, maybe Concord will be shown there. Yeah, I mean, first-party is just not looking good for Sony this year. It's just the truth, right? I don't ever like talking negatively, but first-party specifically, unless they have a massive surprise to announce soon, because they would have to announce it soon if it's going to launch this year. May would be the absolute latest. The absolute latest. If they don't announce a big first-party game by May for this year, it could be like literally Concord's it. Which on paper to me would be the worst year for PlayStation first-party that I can ever think of. Maybe there's one year out there I'm not thinking of, but on paper that would be the worst year I've ever seen from Sony. Not worst year ever for exclusives, because I think Stellar Blade looks pretty awesome. I think Rebirth looks awesome. But out of first party, if all we get's Concord this year, might be their worst year ever for first party output. But we'll see. Plastic Cards Podcast. I was half expecting Sony to reveal a price drop for PSVR 2. We're closing in on 1 full year and seems like sales aren't great. They're not going to cut the price of PSVR 2 because I think it's already something that generates so little money for them that they don't want to, like, put it this way. I think every PlayStation VR 2 is probably being sold at a profit. And I think the hardware was specifically designed that way because I think they knew it wasn't going to take off in a huge way. So whatever tiny investment they have in it, they don't want to be taking big losses. So you saw this with PSVR 1. They had some early price cuts, but then it kind of stagnated at price for a very long time. And it was, again, for the same reason. They would do occasional promotions like during holidays and stuff, but once it came down, I think they had like one big price drop in its life cycle, and then it just kind of stayed there. PSVR 2 will probably be similar. They probably will not cut price because the thing's barely generating money, and the last thing they want to do is have it generate losses when it's barely generating revenue at all. So they're going to keep that price in a profit-ish range, even if that profit's tiny, so they're not taking losses on it. Whereas, like, you're seeing Meta take the exact opposite approach, right? Meta's just like, screw it, we're going to burn billions to get VR established. They're just like, take all the losses. Meta's like, hit me with every loss you possibly can. Dorian Gray, so I guess it's safe to say Xbox isn't going out of business. Absolutely not, right? This is one, so back to the Xbox discussion. I'll be honest, I'm surprised how little discussion there is about this. I thought this was going to be like a very much about the financial performance of Microsoft, this chat, and we're like barely going into it. Just because of how explosive this was online. It's much more been about the state of play, which I'll be honest, surprises me. But, yes, so one thing in regards to the Xbox thing that I think is crazy. You're seeing... Well, I shouldn't say it's crazy because you guys, when I say you guys, this is a general. I think most of you in this chat don't do this, but so many people in the gaming community just want a console war over the dumbest things imaginable. And one thing that I have seen pop up, of course, is the whole, and you see the exact opposite, right? You see Xbox console warriors say PlayStation's going out of business. Here's a secret, guys. Neither of them are anywhere close to going out of business. But one thing I have seen with Microsoft, because of their hardware performance, which we just have to be honest, their hardware performance isn't great, is I've seen some people be like, it's over, Xbox is doomed, you know, they're done, they can't sell as many PlayStation or as many Xboxes as PlayStations. Microsoft Gaming, right, which I have to remind people, that is Phil Spencer's title now. At some point, I'm going to hate to break this to you guys that love the console war, you probably aren't going to have much the console war over because Microsoft is going to be so ubiquitous in this industry that they're not going to be as attached to a console. So I guess the people that like are desperate to console war, you're going to have to switch to PlayStation versus Nintendo. Because it's not me telling you that Microsoft's going to stop selling Xboxes and they're completely leaving the hardware business. But do I believe that Microsoft's going to continue to become more and more and more and more multi-platform over time? Yes, I do believe that. I absolutely believe that. So at some point, they're going to be so ubiquitous, like I don't know why you would really think of them the same way you think of PlayStation and Nintendo. Their business is already turning into that. You're already seeing the transition right now, which I believe, by the way, is part of the hardware story, which I'm just surprised we're not going into yet. I've been trying to hold my hardware thoughts because I thought one of you guys was going to give me that tee up. I'm sure one of you guys is going to get there, so I'm still going to hold on to it a bit. But yes, Microsoft is nowhere near going out of business. They're posting by far record performances, of course, a large part because of these acquisitions. You could even say primarily because of all these acquisitions. But that people that focus on that are missing the forest for the trees. I think that's how you say this statement. This is Microsoft's goal. The people that are like, this is one thing that I found kind of silly about the arguments that people were making and fighting over in my replies about like, well, Activision's the one driving that growth. Yeah, that's the point. Microsoft's building out their gaming division. Why is Phil Spencer's title no longer head of Xbox? It changed. People, I guess, didn't realize how big of a change that was. But in a company like Microsoft, when you literally change the title of the most powerful person in a division, that is signaling something. What is Phil's title? CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Okay, it's not CEO of Xbox. It's not head of Xbox. CEO of Microsoft Gaming. The whole point of Microsoft Gaming right now is to become, let's just be honest, they want to become the biggest financial success in gaming. That's what they want. Does that mean they want to sell the most Xboxes? No, because you can't get there through only selling consoles. Now, does that mean I'm saying they're happy with console performance? No. Does that mean I'm saying Microsoft is going to abandon Xbox tomorrow? No. What I'm telling you is that exactly like you're seeing more and more multi-platform out of them, which is just the truth. Even if you don't see Sea of Thieves or Hi-Fi Rush or whatever go multi-platform, essentially all this Activision Blizzard stuff is going to be multi-platform. That's now part of Microsoft Gaming. That means Microsoft Gaming's umbrella now encompasses more multi-platform development than it did prior. You are seeing them become more spread out, more ubiquitous, more all over the place. So is Xbox, Microsoft Gaming in any danger of going out of business? No. Is Microsoft have a legitimate hardware problem on their hands that needs to be discussed? Yes. And I'm sure we'll go more into that in a second, though we have already been going for more than an hour. So we'll see if I get the hardware tee up. We'll see. We'll see if one of you do it. I think someone just gifted 5 channel memberships, which I appreciate. We did. 5 channel memberships coming from Highlander. Highlander's always so supportive. Thank you so much, Highlander, for gifting out 5 memberships and giving back to that community. Dorian Gray got a channel membership. Evidence got a channel membership. Dave Langer got a channel membership. El Nini got a channel membership. And Alex Bailey got a channel membership. All gifted from Highlander. Shout out to Highlander for being so awesome. You're amazing, Highlander. All of you guys are now channel members for the next month, thanks to Highlander, so you all get priority in the chat. And in fact, I need to hit some channel members because we've been going for a while on free questions, and we have been going for a while now. Let's run another poll. Let's do one on Xbox hardware, because this to me is the big discussion point. Okay. We're going to end the state of play poll, and then we're going to go into an Xbox hardware poll. I asked you guys, how would you rate the state of play? The majority of you are with me. 54% landing at a B. That's where I'm at too. Second place at 22%, though it's almost a tie. 22% was at a C, 21% at an A, and only 3% at a D or lower. So most of you all think it was a pretty good show, right? You have 54% plus 21% for the A. I mean, you know, you're looking at 75% of you guys thought that it was a good show. Basically, B or an A is a good show. So most people did. I agree with that overall. Pretty good show. Was it the best state of play ever? No, but they've definitely had way worse. There's been some, I just gotta say, there's been some outright bad state of plays. There really has. There's really been some bad ones. All right, let's talk about Xbox hardware on a poll. What will be the state of Xbox hardware? Listen, this is a big far out look, but I'm just curious what you guys think. 10 years from now. 10 years, guys. That's all the way through this generation and into a deep part of next gen. What will be the state of Xbox hardware 10 years from now? We will say still very console focused on selling Xboxes. I gotta rephrase that because there's not room. We'll put Microsoft still prioritizing selling Xboxes. Okay? We will say Microsoft still shipping Xbox, but not focus. Okay? We will say Microsoft fully multi-platform. All right. All right, so here's your options with some explanation on each one. What's going to be the state of Xbox hardware 10 years from now? Microsoft's still prioritizing selling Xboxes. So what I mean by that, obviously they already are doing more multi-platform and stuff like that now. But I mean 10 years from now, you still think a ton of exclusive games, a ton of focus on trying to get that hardware as high as humanly possible. The way you do that, of course, big exclusives. So a ton of exclusives, a bunch of focus on fully pushing that console, however you want to phrase it. Marketing behind it, whatever. Microsoft is very committed to selling a lot of Xboxes. Not some, they're very focused on that, console race with Sony. Or your other option, Microsoft's still shipping an Xbox, so they're still sending an Xbox out there, but they're not that focused on it. In other words, whatever comes out of that Xbox is what happens, right? If we sell 30 million Xboxes, great. If we sell 50 million Xboxes, great. If we sell 70 million Xboxes, whatever, but really it's not our focus. Really our focus is just pure revenue from as many sources as possible. Or Microsoft's fully multi-platform. You guys think they're fully multi-platform. They're just fully everything, everywhere, PlayStation, Nintendo, fully multi-platform. I'm just curious what you guys think. Though it won't let me start the poll. Oh, here we go. That's why. Dang, I don't know how to make this shorter. All right, Xbox is going to be spelled wrong. It's going to be XBX because I can't make the option any shorter. I will give you my take in a little bit. I'll let you guys build up the vote first. All right. Let me hit some channel member stuff. Jacob Novik, channel member, just got done seeing the final live stream part of Final Fantasy VII for PS1 by someone I follow. Gotta say, I cried a few times, and even if I'm not into Final Fantasy, I really should and will now. A beautiful game. Oh, wow. Jacob, so that was your first time ever experiencing Final Fantasy VII? Oh, an amazing game. Jacob, amazing. Final Fantasy VII, listen, one of my all-time favorite games. My two favorite Final Fantasy games ever are Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X. Both games made me cry whenever I played them for the first time. Huge fan of Final Fantasy in general, but to me, my favorites are 7 and 10. I just love both of them. That is awesome that all these years later, look at that, a PS1 game, because you're not even talking about the remake. You're talking about the Final Fantasy VII PS1. All these years later, that game is still so powerful. You watch someone play it, and for the first time, and you cried a bit and thought it was a beautiful game. That's amazing, right? That is an example of a timeless classic. What a fantastic comment, Jacob. And yes, Final Fantasy VII is an all-timer. It's one of the all-time best games, in my opinion. Absolutely incredible game. And if you haven't gotten into Final Fantasy really before, I totally recommend Remake, man. Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 is amazing. I have no doubt Rebirth's also going to be amazing. There's going to be some changes from the original Final Fantasy VII, but fantastic. Yes, Final Fantasy VII is just incredible. And if you haven't seen 10 at all, right? If 7 was the first one that you really saw the whole story play out for, if you have a streamer that you like that has played through Final Fantasy X, couldn't recommend watching that one as well or playing it yourself. Final Fantasy X is another fantastic entry in that franchise. Another amazing one. I really liked 16 too. 16's good, but I'll tell you, I love 16, but to me it doesn't hit the same way like 7 and 10 do. All right. People are thanking Highlander for the gifted memberships. Yes, Highlander's the man. Highlander's always gifting memberships. It's so awesome. Highlander, I want to see Microsoft's financials next year. This quarter will not be the norm. That is correct, yes. It'll be the next few quarters because the next, that was quarter number 1. We'll get 3 more quarters where they'll have enormous year-over-year gains. And then after that, then we'll see the true, gains on top of what they have with Activision Blizzard. It's kind of a weird way to say it, but you do have to count those gains. That's why I didn't like people discrediting it as it's only Activision. Well, even if it is only Activision, Microsoft owns them now, so it's theirs. That money is not just make-believe. That money comes to Microsoft. But it is definitely true that the boosts right now are out of typical because these quarters are going to be year-over-year comparisons to without Activision Blizzard. So you are correct, Highlander. Next year, we'll be able to see truly how they're growing outside of adding a publisher. So you are definitely spot on, Highlander. Definitely. Next year, it'll be very interesting to watch what kind of gains or not gains they can have because it'll be a more apt comparison. El Nini says, smart moves from Microsoft rebranding. Yeah, it's definitely sending a message. It's definitely sending a message. Dorian Gray, look at Tencent. Tencent is the biggest gaming company on the planet. How many consoles do they sell? Exactly. All right, the poll's built up enough. I'll give you my opinion. I'm with where you guys are right now. 53% of you are at Microsoft is still, and I'm sure this poll is going to change because more votes are going to be coming in. I asked what will be the state of Xbox hardware 10 years from now. 53% of you are saying Microsoft still ships an Xbox, but it's not the focus anymore. 37% of you say Microsoft fully multi-platform, and only 11% saying Microsoft still prioritizing selling Xbox. I am with that middle one. I think you will see Microsoft keep a console on the market for quite a long time, but I do believe that over time that console will unfortunately get less and less prioritized. Now, I could be wrong. Could be that someone from Microsoft watches this stream. Small chance, but I do know that they do watch occasionally. There's a chance that someone watches this stream, works, at Microsoft, and like, Benji, you absolute idiot. You don't know our plans at all. And if so, I'd be like, all right, you know what? I read you guys wrong. But I'm with the chunk. I'm not going to go so far as the people that are saying Microsoft's fully multi-platform, but I do think 10 years from now, they will be heavily multi-platform, even beyond what we see right now. And I think they'll still ship an Xbox because I think they'll still value having a piece of hardware on that market to get people into the ecosystem, right? In other ways, besides just getting players from other sources. I think they're still going to ship an Xbox for quite a while. But as time continues to go on, I think that thing is going to get less and less primary focus. So whenever I say less focus, that doesn't mean me saying they're going to abandon you. Anyone who owns an Xbox, you're going to get abandoned and they're not going to care about you. But I do think, those days of the 360 days, right? I think those days are long over. Long over. So I do think some people are going to have to get comfortable with that idea. Doesn't mean you can't still be a giant Xbox fan. You absolutely can be. But I just think those days of platform wars, the way it used to be, right? When it was just diehard PlayStation versus Xbox and, the 360 days when it was all about the console and stuff. I think those days are over, guys. I think they're over. And transitioning more and more away from that. But look, we got some different comments here. Evil Dins, no home console, all cloud. Interesting. You think all cloud within 10 years. Dave Langer, Xbox will have a cloud stick for their console. El Nini, cloud hybrid box. See, this is fun. Lots of different takes. Jay's Wad, Xbox will be an app. Adrian Lamb, I think Microsoft will still be making consoles, but it will prioritize their platform, Xbox as a service/store, over dedicated hardware. What a great comment, Adrian. Great comment. Great way to phrase it. I'm with you. I like that idea. It's going to be more about a pure platform, right? A service/store over dedicated hardware. Couldn't agree more. I think that's spot on, Adrian. Great comment. Evil Dins, I don't think a stick would be necessary 10 years. Everything will be cloud. Dorian Gray, I genuinely will be glad when consoles either die or become so insignificant no one has to act like tribalistic morons over them. Listen, I say it all the time. I totally respect people that are giant fans of platforms that aren't ultra toxic fanboys, right? But you can absolutely be one thing and not be the other. I respect someone that just loves PlayStation. Like, PlayStation's their community. They love it. They're a giant PlayStation fan. Same thing for Xbox. I totally respect it when someone loves Xbox. Listen, I love Xbox. I want to give Xbox my support. I want to give them my time and money. I want to be part of this community. Totally. Nintendo, same thing. Totally respect all of it. I'm not against someone being a giant fan. It's just whenever you spend all day long not even talking about the things you like, but attacking the other side, that, yeah, it's just tribalistic, right? It's a waste of your life. You have a finite amount of time to be alive. Don't waste it yelling at people on the internet about plastic boxes. And as I get older, I realize how short that time is, guys. It ain't much. It ain't much time. Don't waste it doing that. You're wasting your life. Not talking about it and having fun. You know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. Highlander with a 5 super chat. Hey, Benji, sorry I'm late. Never apologize, Highlander. You're one of the most supportive people that we have in these chats. I know Microsoft had a great quarter thanks to ABK. I want to see their financials after a year with ABK. Yeah, we saw that earlier, Highlander. I apologize that you spent a super chat on that just because I was able to highlight it earlier when you said it. But yes, I agree with you. That will be a true test of organic growth. And when I say organic, it's a bit weird way to say it because they're going to own a publisher they didn't. But you know what I mean. It will at least be a comparable to a comparable and not a comparable to a different one. Mr. Real Shane with a 10 super chat. Very generous. Thank you so much. And also apologizing for being late. Never apologize, dude. I'm thankful for any support that any of this gets, guys. Like, any of it. So never apologize for being late. I appreciate it, Mr. Real Shane. So you might have covered this, but predictions on SSKTJL. Oh, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Okay, I was like, what? You have predictions on what? Metascore sales. We haven't talked about this. Metascore sales, the fallout for Rocksteady, and why did they spend time, money on this? It looks awful. Okay. Meta prediction. I don't know. It doesn't have a Metascore yet, right? I know some reviews have dropped, but I don't know. I don't know that it has enough for a Metascore yet. Oh my goodness, it does, and guys, it's not good. Holy hell. All right, there's only 7 reviews in, and only 7 reviews were already at a 61. It tends to be the case, not always, but with games, movies, TV, really anything, it tends to be the case, and again, not always. There's always exceptions. But it tends to be the case that the more reviews that come in, tends to be the scores drop. Right? You see that especially all the time with movies, right? You'll see movies start off when they have like 20 reviews in with like a 99 Rotten Tomato score. And then once you have like 200 reviews in, that 99 drops to like an 83. Again, there's always exceptions. But typically, the bigger the sample size, the more that score tends to start to come down. If we're starting at a 61 with 7, I will... Listen, it's hard to say, but I'm going to predict the 50s. This might land in the 50s. I would say 60s at tops. I'd be shocked if this goes back up into like 70s range. I'd be utterly shocked. I'm going to predict 50s with a small chance low 60s. Sales prediction. I've been talking about this in my small Discord for a while. It was a bit interesting because Suicide Squad had been tracking well on pre-orders in the US on PlayStation Network. I'm looking at as many charts as I possibly can. You can sort pre-orders by best-selling on PlayStation Network, and I always look at them every single day. And on PSN, Suicide Squad's actually been tracking really, really nice on pre-orders for PSN. It's been #1 for like weeks. Even over things like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Tekken and Like a Dragon. Like, it's been #1. That game has been #1 for weeks on the pre-order list. So before it actually got in people's hands, I was like, you know what? Brand name recognition alone, if this thing is actually decent, maybe it can surprise us in sales because of how the pre-orders look to be tracking digitally. And then it comes out that the game is, most people are thinking, very bad, right? There's going to be a few outliers who like it, but the general consensus I'm seeing is it is a bad game. I expect maybe this will have an okay day one launch. Okay. And when I say okay, it doesn't mean great. Okay. But I'm expecting like zero legs. I always am rooting for games to succeed, but this looks like a game to me that has zero legs written all over it. So total sales, I'm going to expect not good, not good. And the fallout for Rocksteady, this pains me to say it. It pains me to say it. This game had to be super expensive to make. This game couldn't have been cheap. Suicide Squad's been in development for years with not a small dev team. It has to be incredibly expensive. And if it sells how it looks like it might, again, this is going to be brutal for me to say in a year we're saying so much, or seeing so much of this. I think Rocksteady could be next up for big layoffs. Pains me to say it, especially with someone like David Zaslav at the helm. If there's one thing David Zaslav loves to do, or Zaslav, however you say it, as a CEO, it is to cut costs. That's why you see so much stuff constantly leaving, HBO and HBO Max, right? Well, the rebranded to Max. People are always yelling about all the stuff leaving. Well, that's because David Zaslav is a penny-pinching CEO. He tries to save as much money as possible everywhere. Yes, they're doubling down on games at WB, they've claimed. But if Rocksteady cost $200 million, I don't know if it did, but our Suicide Squad, if it costs $200 million and it doesn't come anywhere close to breaking even, Rocksteady could be next up, man. They could be the next one facing a bunch of layoffs. I hope not. I'm never going to root for someone to lose their job. So when it's me saying that, it's not me being like, Rocksteady devs should lose their job for making this. It's not that at all. It's just looking at the financial situation. If this plays out how I think it suspect might, I could see Rocksteady getting hit with big layoffs, but I hope I'm wrong. And why did they spend so much time, money on this? I don't know. It's the biggest. I've talked about this before. I quite literally think the fall of Rocksteady is potentially, it's got to be top 5 biggest. I'm trying to think of the word. It's got to be a top 5 poor choices made by a single development company ever in video games. Obviously, there's going to be crazy stuff that's happened outside of video games, but like specific choices by a specific developer. You're talking about a company with prestige unreal. I mean, it's been so many years now, people forget when Rocksteady was riding at their highs with Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, especially right after City. And even with Arkham Knight, with how it was a bit of mixed reception, but overall, like we're still talking about a dev that was beloved. They were looked at as an S-class developer, and financially speaking, 3 massive hits in a row. Asylum, City, and Knight all sold tremendously well. So you're talking about a studio that had critical acclaim. You're talking about a studio that had financial acclaim. You're talking about a studio that was riding at their peak heights, and they go almost 10 years without a game after that. It's going to be like 9 years, essentially, give or take, because it was 2015. It'll be a little less, but essentially 9 years without a game. 9 years without a game. And then the game that comes out is a live service game, which is a game that they did not make like before that they found all their success in, and a live service game that doesn't even have good reception. I mean, it's one of the biggest downfalls for a single studio we've ever seen. It's absolutely up there. It is absolutely up there among the biggest downfalls in the history of this industry. Not for like an entire publisher or something like that, but for an individual studio, it is shocking what happened at Rocksteady. The choices that led them to get here, I have no idea. I don't blame it on the devs. I'm going to blame it on management and business decisions, but it is shocking and sad. Shocking and sad. OniX with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, OniX. Hi, Benji. I think the future is cloud and APU on high-end TVs. Microsoft will become multi-plat and will target cheap consoles and leave high-end to Sony. Someone that I respect a lot, and I don't think I won't say a name, okay? I won't say a name because I did not have permission to say this. So I won't say a name. I almost slipped up and said a name. But I didn't, so we're good. I don't know that this person would care, but I don't want to necessarily air out something that they think that they didn't put out in public. I will say somebody that I respect also very much agrees with the second part of your comment there, OniX. Someone I respect thinks that Microsoft will not exit the hardware business, but will stop making high-end consoles. And will look for something more like how Nintendo positions their platforms, like in terms of the console they ship. Not saying necessarily that Microsoft would stop making games with amazing visuals, because their games would be, all over the place. So they would still make games that target high-end hardware too. But the person that, again, I respect this person a lot because I think they're very knowledgeable in what they talk about. They think that, yes, Microsoft will kind of pivot the hardware that they themselves ship to something more profit-focused off the hardware, something that doesn't drive up costs, something that's not necessarily going to be the most cutting edge, and settle more into that like Nintendo type territory for their personal hardware. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I will say Oni X, that's interesting to see you say that because somebody that I respect shares a very similar opinion to you, Oni X. So thank you for that super chat. And just know, again, we'll see how it plays out. I don't know if it's going to play out like that, but even very knowledgeable, smart people, there are people that think similarly to what you're thinking, Oni X. All right. This has been a pretty long stream, but it's crazy. Like, this has been a very successful stream for me. I don't mean financially. I mean, we're still been over 100 for well over an hour. Thank you guys. Thank you for a tremendous turnout today. I really appreciate it. All right, let me see. I'm trying to see channel members have all gotten everything. I'll still go because this chat's been so big for a little bit longer. Turnout today's been amazing. I'm not going to go for another hour, but I'll go for another maybe 15 or 20 minutes or something. Vault 93, this isn't a channel member, but Squall Leonhardt's the GOAT. You know what? Final Fantasy VIII is a good game. That game got a lot of backlash. And listen, does it have its problems? Sure. But I feel like 7 was so beloved and so amazing that 8 gets beat up a little bit too hard because it's not up to the, level that 7's looked at. But listen, 8's a cool game still. It does have a very emo protagonist, though. And this is someone that, used to love emo music. In fact, I still like a lot of that, hello there, angel from my nightmare. Still like a lot of that emo music, But Squall can be a little emo, let's be honest. Then again, so can Cloud. I can't believe I just did the Blink-182 emo voice. Wow. I know Blink themselves aren't emo, but, they had an emo phase. Where are we at? Dorian Gray, there's no incentive to go full third party because they lose their cut on all the third party games. Yeah, like I said, I still think Microsoft's going to be shipping a console 10 years from now. I just think it looks different than we're accustomed to. But maybe I'm wrong, right? I have not talked to anybody at Xbox about their far future plans. I can tell you that. So we'll see. All right. Has all channel members gotten at least one? So I can hit some more freeze before we go. I think so. All right. Let's hit some freeze before we bounce. Where did I leave off? You guys have had some great stuff this chat, by the way. Great, great stuff. Dang, sorry. Sorry it's taking me a minute. I'm trying to find where you guys are at. Alan Baker is not happy that Insomniac is so focused on Marvel games. I've seen some people with that opinion. I think it definitely depends on what you think of Marvel, right? How you look at Insomniac is really dependent on what you think about Marvel, because they are very much a Marvel-focused studio. We talked about this when all the leaks happened. It's not that they're going to be doing only Marvel. One of the games that leaked is not a Marvel game. I'm not going to go into the details. I said I would respect Insomniac and not go super into details about that stuff. But one of the games that leaked is not Marvel, but it would be absolutely fair to call them a Marvel-focused studio. That can't even be debated. So, yeah, listen, if you're like me and you like Marvel, like, to me, it doesn't bother me that much. I love the Spider-Man games. Can't wait to see what they do with Wolverine. Can't wait to see what they do with other Marvel projects that may or may not be in development. But if you're someone that doesn't like Marvel, yeah, I mean, I could totally see being very disappointed. Because, yes, they will be very Marvel-focused for the next 10 years. Vex, Microsoft can't turn Xbox consoles around. They would have to reverse releasing games on PC, which they won't do. PC is probably more important for Microsoft than Xbox consoles at this point. Bigger market as well. You know what, Vex? I've straight up said this. I am someone that is, I am not perfect at all, but I am willing to admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong about PC, right? And some people, were predicting this from the beginning, and you guys called it more than I did, right? People who thought that launching their games day one on PC would have a big cannibalization effect, you guys were right, and I was wrong, right? I was taking the stance that, consoles and PC are still, there's some overlap, but they're still, largely different markets. Will there be some cannibalization? Sure, but, maybe not a huge amount. I don't know how much it necessarily hurts their console, and I've said the last, 12 months have made me really walk that back. Yeah, I absolutely think that PC is cannibalizing Xbox hardware sales. Yes. And I agree with you, Vex, that as long as Microsoft's going to do games day one on PC, their days of being able to sell, 70 to 80 million Xboxes like, you saw for the high end with them with the 360 gen. Yeah, it's over. Yeah, PC cannibalized. The day one games on PC cannibalized the console more than I expected. So I read that more wrong compared to the people that saw that coming. So shout out to you guys because I read it wrong. I do absolutely think it impacted their hardware, yes. Now the question's going to be, is it worth the trade-off? Microsoft's posting record revenues, even before Activision Blizzard. That's another thing a lot of people forgot because I had so many people being like, there's only success because Activision Blizzard. They're dead without that acquisition. Guys, last year was the biggest year ever for the financial results out of Microsoft's gaming division. Now, again, of course, that included Bethesda and all these other acquisitions. So you always have to take all of this, factoring in other acquisitions. But the idea that they were generating zero money before Activision Blizzard is not true. They just had their biggest year ever, actually, in revenue. So, but yeah, Activision Blizzard definitely accelerated it. So you have all of this with their hardware contracting. That's why I made that tweet. It's you're really seeing a change. You're really seeing a change in how you look at Microsoft. And like I said, the people that want a console war, I mean, you're going to probably have to switch between PlayStation and Nintendo, man. I don't know how much longer you're going to be able to do the PlayStation versus Xbox thing. Captain Crunch, nice reporting, Benji. Thanks. Well, thank you, Captain Crunch. I am doing better this year than I did last year. Last year I was trash, I'll just be honest. My mental health was so bad, I was not doing that great last year. But I think I'm doing better this year. But we'll see. It's only January. That could change. But thank you, Captain Crunch. Very nice comment. Duquesta, is it realistic for Microsoft to just ditch Xbox hardware altogether? 8 million Xbox players is 100% of their player base. That's not true, straight shot. That's not true. Duquesta, is it realistic for Microsoft to completely ditch hardware? Completely ditch? I said this a few chats ago when the first rumors about hi-fi and stuff started coming out, and I was like, the people that are going to make that decision are far higher paid than I am, and they're also far smarter than I am, right? So the people that are going to make that decision, they're going to run a lot of numbers that none of us have access to. And they're going to make the choice of if they think that, because here's my opinion. Satya Nadella is the type of CEO he will drop the console, yes, if he believes. And I mean fully. Satya is the type of CEO that if he saw firm numbers, right? If someone presented to him undeniable evidence that the whole Microsoft gaming division would generate more money by completely abandoning an Xbox console and having their games just everywhere day one. I don't know Satya personally, but I can see the business moves he makes. Satya would abandon the console, yes. Like, he would stop making Xboxes. In my opinion, if he knew for sure, and this is the key point here, if he knew for sure they could generate more money. The question is can they? Because let's say they even get to 40 to 50 million Xbox consoles sold over the course of this generation, which is starting to become more questionable because for some of you that don't know, Xbox Series consoles are now tracking behind Xbox One. So, alarming. But an Xbox One shipped about 50 million units. But even if, let's just say, theoretically things pan out and they can get back up to 40 to 50 million units, that's still 40 to 50 million consoles-ish that they can get a 30% cut of every game sold on. That's still people that are going to be accessing Game Pass through that ecosystem, and et cetera, right? So it's not as simple as you'll sell more games and get more microtransactions fully multi-platform. You have to factor in, well, we're going to lose this source of revenue from hardware. So someone, trust me, internally is always running these numbers to see how they shake out. And I think, like I said, they're going to still be shipping Xboxes for quite a while because I don't think they'll fully get to that pivot point yet. But if Satya sees undeniable proof that they will make more money doing it, yes, he will drop the console. But I suspect the trade-off won't be quite worth it, or at least not for a while, but I could be wrong. All right, I'm going like 10 minutes and I'm out. 10 minutes and I'm out. That's it. 10 minutes and it's time to go. What a chat, man. I know some of you guys are going to agree with some of my takes. Some of you guys are going to disagree with some of my takes, but I'm loving it. This is a great chat. So many great questions. I love seeing all of your guys' opinions. It's been fantastic. This is a good chat. All right, since we're down to the last 10 minutes, is there something you guys want to run a poll on? I'm scrolling to the bottom. Is there something you guys want to poll on before we leave? Huh? If you guys want one more poll, throw me an idea. I'll run one more poll if you guys got a good idea for one. You guys got a poll idea? Lily Love here at the bottom. What's up, Lily? What games are you looking forward to the most this year? Oh, great question. Most anticipated games for the year that are left. Hellblade 2. Very excited for Hellblade 2. Loved the first Hellblade. So Hellblade 2 is absolutely going to be way up there. Star Wars Outlaws. I thought what they showed looked awesome. So Hellblade 2, Star Wars Outlaws. I'm sure there's tons of stuff I'm forgetting. Stellar Blade. I'm actually very excited for Stellar Blade. Hellblade 2, Stellar Blade. Star Wars Outlaws. What am I forgetting? There's a big giant game that's just like obvious that I'm forgetting. But I don't know. Savage Raccoon. A poll on first-party exclusives taking too long to make. Well, that's just undeniable. So anyone that would vote no in that poll, Savage Raccoon, I would just say, yes, Rebirth, Lily Love. Great. Rebirth, yes. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Duh. I knew it. I was like, there's a big one that I know I'm excited for that I forget. Yes, you're spot on, Lily. Off the top of my head, those are probably the four I'm most excited for. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hellblade 2, Stellar Blade, and Star Wars Outlaws. Probably. Those are probably the four. Though I could be forgetting something else as well. But those four definitely stand out off the top of my head. Oh, and Indiana Jones. I'll put Indiana Jones in there. I'm very excited for Indiana Jones, which surprises me. Because I told you guys, like, when people were asking me before the reveal, I would have people ask me, like, Benji, are you super hyped for Indiana Jones? And I was always like, you know, I mean, I'm like excited for it, but I'm not like the biggest Indiana Jones fan. But I loved what they showed. So yeah. Oh, and Dragons, dude. See, you guys are right. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 as well. Look at me. I'm gonna be giving you my like top 10 in like 5 seconds. But yeah, also Dragon's Dogma, also Indiana Jones. Yeah, you guys are bringing up the good ones. Yep. Dorian Gray says Stalker 2. Stalker 2 is actually not on my list for me. I am excited to play it, Stalker, but it's not going to be like one of my most anticipated. But yeah, those are a bunch of them. Indiana Jones, Dragon's Dogma, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hellblade 2, Stellar Blade, Outlaws. Yeah, that's a bunch of them. Very excited for every single game there that I just said. All right, a few more minutes. I'm just like rapid firing through random stuff I see. And then it's go time. I respect like how good you guys are in chat. I'm very fortunate in that my community that I have on YouTube is like, it's not a big community, but like you guys do very little like insulting each other, fighting ridiculously, bashing each other. Like you guys are, listen, are we going to have some, bad eggs every once in a while? For a YouTube chat, dude, props to you guys. You guys are like, compared to your average YouTube stream, I have a very well-behaved community. I know that's a funny thing to point out, but like, I watch a lot of live streams on YouTube, like for various other things besides games, like MMA and stuff like that. And you like look at the chat and it's like just toxic. You guys, shout out to you guys. I have a very well-behaved chat. Very well-behaved. You guys are great. Gordon, Rebirth only getting 1 day to get the sales in. Yeah, that's the problem. Dave, I'm still voting for Final Fantasy. Yeah, it still might. That's just the only thing that makes it tough. Oh, Pio's in chat. What's up, Pio? Pio White Wolf, what up, Benji? I hope we get a big Sony AAA game for later 2024. Me as well, my friend. I always say it all the time. You guys hear me talk about how, like, I just said it earlier. I have no problem with people that are huge fans of a certain platform. That's Pio, right? I don't see Pio running around being toxic, hating on Xbox. But Pio absolutely loves PlayStation, and I love Pio. See? You can be a huge fan of a platform without being toxic. Pio's just hyped for PlayStation, and that's awesome. And yes, Pio, hopefully we do. Hopefully we get a big surprise AAA Sony first-party game later this year, but it's just not looking great on the odds, but you never know. Maybe we'll be surprised. Dorian Gray says, I'm less excited for Stellar Blade after seeing more. I knew they said it was inspired by Nier Automata, but it's like ripping it off. There's definitely some Nier elements to it, but it also has some stuff that differentiates itself. Like the combat to me felt far more Souls-like, actually, including like their rest points, which respawn enemies and stuff. Like there was, don't get me wrong, it's definitely inspired by Nier Automata. Like there's just no doubt about that. But I thought it's doing its own things too. But I'm very excited for that game. But I get it. Not everything's going to be attractive to everybody. Dorian Gray needs Judas. I'm a big Levine fan. Yes, I'm very excited for Judas. It looks far more just like BioShock, though, than I thought. And listen, I love BioShock, and I love Ken Levine. Judas literally looks like a BioShock game. Like, if you took that name Judas and erased it, and you just called it BioShock space game, I would be like, yep, that's a new BioShock. It's like that meme that you see of, like, the guy, and he's looking at a block of wood, and it says, identifying wood. Yep, that's wood. That is, like, what Judas is. It's like, identifying BioShock? Yep, that's BioShock. Like, Judas literally looks like a BioShock game. Not necessarily bad. I love Ken Levine. I love the BioShock franchise, but I thought that whatever his next game would be inspired by BioShock, but, like, way different. It looks like BioShock. Dave Langer, I think they are waiting on Concord because they have Foam Stars and Helldivers out in February. Good point. both service games. Foam Stars isn't made by Sony, but it is exclusive, right? It's not going to be on Xbox or Switch. And Helldivers is actually like a second-party published Sony game. So it's a good point. It's a good point. Yep. Yep, they could be waiting to show Concord for that reason. You could be correct. One or two more. One or two more. Dorian Gray, I would have canceled Odyssey myself. This is the Blizzard survival game. 6 years and they get this far after changing the game engine and wanting to change it again. And here's Palworld is costing $7 million and making numbers. Yeah, that was one thing that came out after the chat last week. Last week I kept saying, I want to see Jason Schreier's report on this. I said that like 5 times in the stream because the canceling of the Blizzard survival game felt so weird. And I was like, there's got to be something that we don't know. Like, that's, I think, literally the exact wording I used. I was like, there's something about this that doesn't add up. There must be another element to this game getting canceled than we're aware of. And yeah, as Dorian Gray says, Jason actually provided that information. I still don't know if it should have been canceled or not, but it makes a lot more sense if you haven't seen Jason's article. Like Dorian says, this game was in development for 6 years. They were having engine problems, and then once Microsoft bought them, then they were like wanting to switch to Unreal Engine, which meant the game was probably, if you're wanting to switch engines and it's already been in development for 6 years, how much investment will there be in this game? Like, it's got to be insanely expensive over time. So yeah, it made more sense afterwards, and that's why I kept being like, I want to see Jason's article. There's got to be something we're missing here about this game getting canceled, because even Jason said the rumblings that he had heard were that it was being well received, like in terms of what the game was. But yeah, they just had a lot of development problems. And yeah, I'm glad that he had that article, because I was saying the same thing. I was like, there's something not adding up here. We're missing something. Okay, I'm going to go. Wait, Highlander, did you? No. All right, I think I'm about to leave. Let's scroll to the bottom. Make sure I didn't miss anything big. Dave Langer, Bioshock Judas. Yeah, exactly. Looks great, but it looks like a Bioshock game. Vault 93, will Kojima's Fizzant be bigger than Metal Gear? I'm going to say no. That's a high bar, man. Metal Gear Solid's such a giant franchise. I'll say no. Could it be big? Yes. And who knows? Maybe if the movie takes off or something, who knows? But for now, I mean, Metal Gear is such a prestigious bar. I'm going to say no. But it could be big. Yeah, it could be big. It could be very well big. Ducasta. Very kind comment. Toxic follows toxic. You're not a toxic clickbait person, so makes sense. Well, that's very kind of you. That's a kind way to reflect it back at me. But I appreciate the compliment, but I'm definitely complimenting you guys. And I ain't just saying that. Like I said, I watch a lot of live streams, so I see a lot of live chats, and there is a lot of craziness in the streams chat. So I very much appreciate it. You don't all have to be nice to me, but I'm even saying like how you guys treat each other. You guys don't go off the rails. It's very rare that we have to like ban someone or anything. Benji, Monolith seems to develop a new game. Everyone is talking about Insomniac's output, but Monolith is right there. 3 big games plus 2 expansions on the Switch. Yeah, Monolith has become a fantastic developer for Nintendo. Good call out, Benji. Good call out. All right, guys, I think we're going to leave. I appreciate everything. You guys are all amazing. All right, let's bounce. Thank you for all of the support. We had tremendous viewership for this channel on this stream. Got to be one of my highest. We've hit over 100, in quite a few streams for the past year or so when I do stream. But, we were over 100 for a long stretch of time. So, thank you so much, guys. Great viewership, great interaction. The chat was filled with a ton of freaking good questions. A lot of good opinions. You guys had some really great analysis on a lot of things, a lot of good takes, a lot of interesting takes. Thanks for voting on the polls. Thanks for just all the good stuff, guys. You guys know I love doing this chat. I'm so glad that we're back to doing this every week. I'm so glad, right? It's so much better than last year whenever I was just so spotty. So I'm glad we're back and things are rocking and rolling. All right, everyone, thank you for all of your support. To everyone that's a channel member, thank you so much. To Highlander, who gifted channel memberships, thank you so much. To the super chats, thank you so much. To the people that don't donate or don't do super chats or anything, I don't care. Thank you so much. Thank you for being in the chat. A ton of the questions I get have nothing to do with that. So thank you so much to everyone that turns out. Follow me on Twitter if you're not already. If you're here, the odds are very high you do, because I have a way bigger following there, but I am Benji-Sales on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. If for some reason you see this stream and you're not following me there, that's where I'm the most active and have the most following at. Like the video if you have not already. Helps that YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And as always, stay safe. Play some games, and I will see you all very, very soon. I will either see you on the live chat next week, because we'll be back next week. We've settled into Thursdays, it seems like, so I'll probably be back Thursday. This stream might look a lot different next Thursday, by the way, because I'm off for a week coming up. And one of my things, look at all this clutter behind me. That's because this is just a spare room. This is not designed to be some like professional area. This is not an area I hang out. It's quite literally a spare room where just random stuff gets thrown into. My goal on my week off coming up is to actually make this space look presentable, right? Not a giant TV behind me and random destroyed furniture, like an actually aesthetically pleasing thing. So very well could be the next time you guys see me on the stream. It will be a much better setup than it is now. So thank you so much, guys. You're the best. You're the best. I gotta go. I love you guys. I love you so much. Thank you. Bye, 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 bye.